All right, thanks for tuning in. Got out on a day where there was a cold front coming in. The wind was just blowing ferociously. It was probably too windy to fish. But I've learned over the years, the wind is your friend. It will position the fish, make them a lot more predictable. And also, not all the fish will move up to the shallows to look to spawn at the same time. There will be different waves. So just because of the conditions, I decided to target fish that were staging out on the points. A lot of times, the bigger fish will be out on the points, and they'll make their move into the shallows a little later. That's just been my experience over the years, and this will work on any lake. But make sure you watch this one all the way through. I catch some good ones there towards the end of the videos where the big ones really showed up. But use the trusty jig and fluke. It's absolutely deadly. Anyway, I'll come back a little later and explain to you what I'm using and how I was using it, and rod and reel setup and that kind of thing. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back to the channel. I know it's a little dark, but I'm starting a little early because I got a limited amount of time. So it's going to be extremely windy today. And quite frankly, it's a little bit chilly. So you can use the wind to your advantage, though. That's what I'm hoping. Pretty sure it was a striper. There he is. This is the spot. This is a striper. Just a little guy. Fish. I'm throwing the jig and fluke. Man, look at that sunrise. Oh, man, is it cold. Wow, that wind is cold. There we go. Ooh, boy, it's a good one. It's so windy that I almost couldn't tell I got a bite on that one. That's a decent fish. Oh, the old jig and fluke. There just might be another. Wasn't 100% sure that was a bite. Oh boy, he hit me on the drop there. There is another fish in there. I'll take that. I'll take it. Boy, is it windy. So I could go back in the creek, throw the lizard and get bit, you know, quite a bit. But I'm fishing for different fish today. Sometimes, well, usually, there'll be another group of fish that'll stage on these points that haven't moved up to, you know, look to spawn yet. Sometimes those are the bigger fish. That's kind of what I'm fishing for right now. I mean, that may change. There we go. Ooh, it's a good one. jig and fluke. That's a better fish there. Well, that felt good. That just might be another. It's just a little kind of a point. Not, you know, it's fairly shallow. That's where that fish was. Boy, he was in there shallow. So it's supposed to be in the 60s today. Never trust the weatherman. It is freezing out. Nice one. That's what came out of that fish's mouth, so they are feeding on tiny. That was a tiny little threadfin shad. So fish are not easy to come by today. But I'm catching enough to keep it interesting. That wind. Wow, it is cold. Oh boy. Yeah. Forrest, if you're watching, this one's for you. I just had a comment this morning from a subscriber. Says it's about time for me to start catching the stinky catfish. And there you have it. Big old channel. It is that time of year, I guess. Look at all the catfish boogers on my line. Yuck. Not what I was after, but boy, they sure do fight good. They're stout. This is what my fish finder's showing me. There's fish down there, a lot of bait. That's why I'm using this jig and fluke. Should be able to catch a few more. So it's a lot colder than I expected. The wind is really blowing. I'm out of the wind a little bit in this spot, but I'm not going to fish too much longer. It's too cold. I wasn't expecting it to be this cold, and it's just blowing too hard. I have caught a few fish though, and I'll probably catch a few more before I leave. Right out in the wind. Check out the eyes on that fish. They're orange. That means they're getting ready to, start thinking about spawning. It's actually too windy to fish, really. I mean, it's blowing. I switched over to my hair jig because it's a heavy one. I'm throwing a 3/8 today. It's just too windy otherwise. I don't know, I'm kind of out of the wind over here. I think I can switch back to my jig and fluke for a minute here. Oh, I had him, you son of a gun! Had him. I believe this is a big one here. Ooh, yes. Don't break me off. This is why I like to throw the jig and fluke right here. See right there in that corner of the mouth, right where you want it. Nice big old spot. I missed that fish the first pass down through here, so I left him alone and came back to him. There just might be another. Man, that was a nice one. There we go. Oh boy, it's another good one. Don't you throw it. Wow. Man, this is a fat one here. Look at the belly. It's not a long fish, but man, look at the belly on it. That's a nice one. Nice chunky spot. On the old trusty jig and fluke. when the wind's blowing, I like this jig and fluke. All right, well, there just might be another. Let the wind move me here. If I head this way just another 10 feet, I'll be right in the wind. And the wind is blowing so hard I can't hardly even hold myself with the trolling motor. So I'm gonna just stay out of the wind, just enough to where I can cast. See if there's another. So not all the fish will move up shallow at the same time. There'll be different waves of them. And these fish I'm targeting here are, you know, kind of staging on the points, a little bit deeper water. That's what I wanted to catch today. I intentionally didn't throw the lizard. But I caught 3 off that point. I don't know that there's going to be too many more. A lot of times when the fish have moved up shallow, that when you get a cold front like we've got here, wind blowing and colder than normal, they'll back off onto the points, you know, just to hang until the weather stabilizes. So I'm going to switch back to my heavy jig here, just to make sure I'm not leaving any of them out here a little deeper out in the wind. Out there in the deeper stuff. Ooh, it's a nice one too. Wow. I won't lose him. Oh man. Oh, he's gonna break me off. To weigh this one. Wow, what a giant. Boy, that's a big one. That's a monster. Get my scale out. All right. All right, 3.36, if you can see that. Nice big chunky spot, man. How do you like that? Beautiful fish. All right. Get my boat turned around, I'm gonna throw back in there. Again, I've been catching them on this jig and fluke and then my hair jig. The reason I'm throwing this hair jig is because it's heavier. I don't want to dig around and try to find a heavier head for that jig and fluke. I could catch them on this hair jig all year long. I have to force myself not to throw it just to try to keep the videos interesting. All right, again, it's a jig and fluke, just a jig head and a fluke. It doesn't get any simpler. And I'm throwing it on a 7-foot medium extra fast. It's an Arc rod, an Arc Essence rod. I'm using a Shimano Vanford 2500 size reel, the best spinning reel you can buy, in my opinion, without spending 500 bucks. And I'm using 8-pound Gamma Touch fluorocarbon. The strongest line. Gamma is the best line, so you're not going to find it at Walmart or Bass Pro. You're going to have to look for it. You're going to have to order it from them, probably. That's how I do it. But it's the best line you can buy. A little bit later in the video, I ended up having to switch over to my hair jig, only because I didn't want to take the time to dig out a new jig head for this fluke. The wind was blowing so hard, the minute I take my foot off the trolling motor, it'd blow you right into the bank. And I always have a hair jig or 2 or 3 rigged up, and I had to use a heavier jig head on the hair jig because the wind was just ferocious. It was either a 3/8 or a half, I don't remember, but it was a fairly heavy jig head just because of the wind. All right. What an awesome day of fishing. That wind just beat me up. I mean, it'll tire you out. It was extreme wind. But I actually have learned to like those kind of days over the years. I catch a lot of fish out in the wind. But thanks for watching. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I got a lot of good stuff coming up. But thanks again, and I'll see you out there next time. Let's look at those trees. This wind is something else.